person who has a hard time getting down from a mountain after climbing it. I obviously don't mean this literally because I've never climbed a mountain or even planned on doing so. However, sometimes I'm just so satisfied with an event that nothing can ruin my vibe. At the top of my mountain, I can feel the adrenaline surge through my veins. And the future holds more promise than ever. And it feels like nothing can take that moment away from me. Oh wait, never mind, one thing can ruin this moment. Seeing flashing red and blue lights in my rearview mirror. As a teenager, it felt entirely predictable, like a trademark of my youth when I got my first speeding ticket. I was on a road passing through some beautiful landscape, as if hand-painted by Mother Nature herself. I had chosen to drive a bit to get over having a really bad day, and it sure did make me feel better, until I found myself going 42 in a 25 zone. Well, actually, I didn't find myself going this speed. A radar one did. I was promptly pulled over. The cop took a long 30 minutes to fill out the short ticket form, and 3 minutes asking me for my parents' phone numbers. When I explained that I didn't know my dad's phone number by heart, and I offered to look it up, the policeman took this as an opportunity to interrogate me about my family situation. Why was he asking me this stuff anyways? His questions only made me more nervous and more upset. After the whole ordeal was finished, I had to continue driving, despite my crippling terror. I drove home with my vision obscured with tears, a situation that was even more dangerous than speeding. Yes, I shouldn't have been speeding in the first place. And yes, the policeman did his job. And yes, I deserved a speeding ticket. But despite all of this, the situation felt really wrong to me. I was under the policeman's control for more than a half hour, with no alternative but to listen to the officer's berating lecture as I struggled to keep control of my emotions. I'll never know if my age, my gender, my car model, my family situation, the quality of his day, the number of tickets he had given out me, or anything else contributed to the way he chose to treat me. But that didn't matter because all I knew was that I was terrified of a situation in which this man held all the power that could be easily abused. One would expect for me to stay out of trouble in the time following my first ticket. False. 4 months later, I repeated the ordeal on the 90 West Freeway, going 77 in a 60. My reaction in my conversation was practically the same as the time before. All that's worth noting was that I wasn't scared of telling my mom about the ticket. I wasn't upset that my insurance would go up or that I'd be 33 minutes late to my appointment. I was only upset that I had to interact with another policeman. I'd have to feel those same feelings of inadequacy, vulnerability, and powerlessness. Before we go any further, I'd like to clarify that I don't think that policemen are inherently bad people. I don't think that they all abuse their power and that policemen serve no positive purpose in society. In fact, I feel the opposite way. Policemen are integral to our society, maintaining rule of law. However, sometimes in the world we live in, it's too easy to take a position of authority and wield it as a weapon. Sometimes this choice is intentional, but often it is a subconscious change that comes with power. That must be why I take issue with the police. Since every police officer I have encountered in a traffic stop has treated me as a female teenage nothing, I associate the protectors of our society with corruption, punishment, and abuse. The police who have stopped me have removed the human element from their work, seeing the speeding teenager as a pre-written ticket. Never mind my tears or my bad day, the police have never shown me any compassion, have never tried to inspire me to never speed, to protect me, or to serve me. All they've done is try to scare me into submission. Maybe you've seen the movie Matilda, based off the book by Roald Dahl. I felt just as Matilda did when her father said, "Listen, you little wiseacre, I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm big, you're little. I'm right, you're wrong, and there's nothing you can do about it. Just as Matilda had her sense of power stripped from her, so too did I with the police. A lot of this comes from the culture of authority that is fostered in the United States, starting from the necessity for corporations to have CEOs like Donald Trump, who's made a living off his phrase, "you're fired," and the military to have generals who use fear and punishment to enforce rules. Even traditional classroom dynamics are centered on the all-knowing and all-powerful teacher who has the final say on grades. Society is built around having disparities in power that leave one party feeling helpless and the other party feeling dangerously in control. Because it's human nature to assume that cooperation and interdependence in an organization cannot successfully manage chaos. I believe that authority is abused because most leaders start by taking into account every opinion of those beneath them, but find it too hard to maintain a balance of power while simultaneously maintaining order. Robert Wilson, writing in Psychology Today, looked into the distinction between leadership and power, citing that it is a feeling of inferiority, sometimes called the Napoleon complex, that drives someone to control other people and to micromanage their surroundings. However, the same article makes the important distinction that a true leader has self-esteem and self-confidence and does not seek power to bolster his or her feeling of self-worth. So why is it that this idea of a confident leader is rejected by society? Look to Niccolo Machiavelli, an Italian philosopher whose revolutionary political thought manifested itself in his handbook, The Prince. In The Prince, Machiavelli argues that morals and ethics shouldn't be factored into leadership because ruthless, crafty, and all-powerful leaders are the most effective. Beyond this, he argues that a leader should assume the worst of intentions in his followers, believing that they will always do the wrong thing. This supports that authority is abused to maintain control. Retribution is substituted for education because retribution assumes that people need to fear doing the wrong thing because they fear facing the punishment. Abusive leaders assume that others can't learn from mistakes or assume responsibility, so they find it more comfortable to hold all the power. So why is it so scary to spread authority? To take the power out of one person or a few people's hands and distribute it to more? Even I have fallen victim to the belief that self-accountability is more reliable than trusting others to do the right thing. However, this mentality isn't inevitable. Look to the American Constitution to find how our founding fathers identified and bettered the problem of an all-powerful authority. The president cannot just tell us as Americans how to act, and the president doesn't scare his or her citizens into agreeing with his or her policies. There are checks and balances, like Congress and the media, which prevent an autocracy from happening. Congress is the body that can pass bills, which balances out the president's power to be a spokesperson for policy. And as we all probably know, the media and the public don't automatically accept the president's beliefs, which puts pressure on the executive branch to consider both sides of an argument before making a statement in front of the public eye. In America, we don't allow for major power disparities between the citizens and the government to develop, a virtue rooted in the foundations of our country. In other nations, the power disparity between the people and the dictator is too wide to bridge. Policies are enforced by fear, the fear of death or torture. In those countries, leadership is interpreted as meant to be in the hands of one person who may or may not be the right person for that job. So, bringing this back to my experience with the police, I felt powerless, but only because I bought into the power disparity. As I interviewed a policeman in preparation for this speech, he told me that most police deaths are caused by traffic stops, when the police officer approaches the door of a traffic offender and is met with a firearm. This explains why police officers are so brief and forward when they pull people over. They are just as scared as I am. They buy into a power disparity as well, but one that directly mirrors how I perceive the situation. Both individuals filled with fear, the police-to-citizen relationship is a strained one, but one that has hope. If those in positions of authority, like police officers, can abandon their need for control and power, society would benefit by learning from mistakes rather leader, recognizing the checks on power and feeling autonomy in moments with power disparities. So what generation is better than our generation in not blindly accepting authority? We are known for questioning the validity of outdated terminology, repealing laws that serve injustice, and pushing the boundaries on what others believe is normal. The systems put in place are not finite, and even when faced with strong authoritative figures, our passion for change and justice will light a fire under all of us to challenge the world we live in. And when one day, some of us are CEOs, government officials, or even policewomen, it's vital that we remember what makes a great leader. Because when it comes down to it, we are all citizens with rights and powers that we won't let be taken away. Thank you.